Hello there, and welcome to the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I'm so glad you are joining me here today. Now, just in case we're new friends, I'm going to quickly introduce myself and then we'll dive in. My guess is that if you're listening to this episode on one-on-one coaching, we aren't new friends. But just in case, I always do a quick introduction. Now, as I said, this is the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I am Denise Alvarez, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream-chasing horse business owners like yourself to clear the marketing fog so they can make strategic, intentional steps to build their business with confidence and with purpose. Now, I do this primarily through business and marketing coaching, and then through education, such as this podcast, and I have some online learning resources for you also. All that I do, friends, is so that you, as an equestrian entrepreneur, can be out doing what it is you love to do. So whether you are serving the equine industry in the barn, the arena, behind the camera lens, at your desk, at the workshop, at the expo, wherever it is you're doing it and what you love to do, I want to help you do more of that. And so today is a bit different, as I said, because we're diving into a behind the scenes look at what it's like in my one-to-one coaching. Okay, instead of teaching a strategy or walking you through a marketing framework, as I typically do here on the podcast, I'm taking you behind the scenes. Why? Because I know that coaching can feel abstract, and I know that different coaches have different approaches and methods and goals. And so as I talk to you guys about what I do, I know many of you, hopefully, and as I talk to you, have wondered what it is that I do and if it would be a help to you. Okay, so yes, I can send you to the website and I will do that. But I thought that today, rather than telling you about it, why not introduce you to some of my one-on-one coaching clients so that you can hear about the amazing businesses I get to work with and so that you can hear from them what it's like to work with me on a coaching framework. Now, really quick, before I introduce you to these new friends that are going to be new to you, not new friends to me, some of you may be wondering, okay, Denise, what is one-on-one coaching? What is it that you do? So let me just briefly tell you what is one-on-one coaching, which for me, my program is called Take the Reins. That's what we're talking about today. Now, I do have clarity coaching calls available. So rather than joining a specific coaching program, if you're like, Denise, I would love to just get on Zoom. I've got a specific question I'd like your insight on, or I've got some things that are feeling messy and I'd like you to simplify it for me and give me my clear next steps. Absolutely, clarity coaching calls are a great fit for that. And I love to do that. I love getting to meet you guys, hear about your business, and dive into clarifying your messaging or getting a strategy behind how you're going to convert people on social media or tips for your launch that's coming up or audit your website. Those are just some of the things that we do inside of clarity coaching calls. So that's one aspect of one-on-one coaching that's available to you anytime. If you go to stormlily.com/clarity, then you can get on there and book that anytime that you would like. Okay. And of course, I'll link to that for you guys on the show notes, and it's on my website, stormlily.com. So it's stormlily.com. Okay. But today, specifically, what I want to talk to you about is the one-on-one coaching experience that is Take the Reins. It is a 6-month personalized experience for equestrian entrepreneurs who feel overwhelmed by marketing and feel stuck on the next steps. So perhaps it's your website that's not converting, or you've been engaging on social media, but you're not seeing results and you truly don't have a strategy around it. Or maybe you just know that you want to dive into email marketing, but you're like, where do I start and how do I even make that interesting and how do I build my email list? So inside of Take the Reins, working off of my Saddle Up and Go framework, we will clarify your messaging, simplify your marketing strategy, and build systems around social media, email, and your website. And we also untangle the mindset blocks that are keeping you spinning because that matters too. Okay. So with Take the Reins, what it looks like, if you're like, okay, that's great, but what do I actually get? We get on Zoom twice a month for 60 minutes. And from that call, you get the recording and you always have clear next steps and a strategy in place for what you're going to do to accomplish your goals. Okay. And you have personalized support throughout your time in the program. So when you get those one-on-one calls in between that, then you and I are still engaging and I'm supporting you. So what does that look like? It can look like feedback on content that you're creating. It can look like help inside of Canva. We definitely do some of that, going back and forth and giving you some feedback and helping you to create something that actually is on brand and makes sense for your audience. The feedback piece is really, again, that's why it's personalized support. It's personalized to what you need. But that's the nuts and bolts of what it looks like. Now, what you walk away with at the end of that time together, well, number one, just to be clear, at the end of that time, if we're working well together, you'll be invited to continue on if that's something you want to do. And I have a few options for what that looks like, depending on what you need. But still, just know that at the end of those 6 months, you will have a clear plan in place. You will have confidence because you won't be spinning your wheels and you'll actually know what you need to work on and what you need to focus on to meet your personal goals for your business. And you'll have systems in place so that you have inquiries and bookings that are coming in and you know where they're coming from, you know how to get them, and it will make all the difference in the world when you have that clarity piece. Okay. So that is a peek at what we're talking about as I introduce you to Susan and Susan today. Okay. So instead of me telling you what it's like to experience it, that's what is included. That's what you will get. But now I want you to hear directly from Susan and Susan, just so happens they're both Susans, to hear what it's like. Okay. So I'm going to introduce you to some incredible entrepreneurs that I'm excited for you to meet. Susan Friedland is an equestrian author and speaker, and you'll learn more about her as we talk. And then Susan DiFelice is an equestrian artist and illustrator. So very unique businesses, very unique aspects of what they are doing, what they want to do. But both of them came in feeling stuck with their marketing. And you're going to hear how they were feeling about that, what changed for them, and what that looks like now for their business. Okay. So why am I doing this episode? My hope for you is twofold. Number one, I want you to hear what one-on-one coaching is actually like so that you can discern whether this is the kind of support that you need in this season of your business. Okay. And that matters, just so that you know. My heart is not for everyone to just go sign up for Take the Reins. My heart is for if this is a right fit for you in this season of your business, then check it out. If you're like, I need that extra support. I've been in this all alone. I really want a thinking partner who thinks differently with me, than who's strategic, can help me take this mess of marketing and turn it into a system. 100%, I would love to talk to you. But secondly, I'm excited about this episode because I love getting to introduce you to fellow entrepreneurs in the equine industry. I do that regularly with podcast guests. And so this is another fun way to do that. Okay. So I think you're going to love them. I've got their links on the show notes. So as you listen, if you're like, oh, I need to go follow them find them on Instagram or get that free resource, whatever it is, then if you go to stormlily.com/208 for episode 208, I've got their links and everything on the show notes for you. Okay. Now, as you listen, friends, I want you to be thinking about your own business because the goal of every episode of this podcast is for you to walk away with something tangible that you can apply to your business. And I know you're going to get that here. Okay. So think about your business, where it is right now, where you are personally feeling stuck, and what's one action step you can take to make that change and make that difference. And if it's coaching, 100%, I'd love to talk to you. Okay. All right, let's dive in. We're going to start with Susan Friedland. Susan, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so grateful, and I'm really excited for people who don't know you to get to know you and learn about what you do. So before we dive into all of the other things that we're going to talk about in terms of coaching, I would love for you to give a brief introduction to everyone. Tell us about your business, who you serve, and what you do.
All right. Well, I am an equestrian author and speaker, and I serve people who grew up loving horses and bookworms who, love horse stories, especially people that have a fondness for Marguerite Henry. So I've written 6 books. I've got a seventh on the way this summer I'm really excited about. It's going to be a picture book, and it's so cute. But yeah, I like to connect with people and encourage them. I started out as a blogger, and maybe we'll get to that in a follow-up question. An equestrian life
Yes.
blogger.
Yeah, yeah, I want people to hear that piece. Tell me about what you do now, when you think about your work right now. What lights you up the most?
I love connecting with fellow horse enthusiasts, whether they're, equestrians like me. I'm someone who owns a horse and I ride several times a week, or just people who, maybe never had a horse or had the opportunity to ride, but just love horses. There's something so special about them. And so it really lights me up when I have kind of these me too moments with, the dreams that we had as a child and just, sharing a passion for these majestic beasts that make life better.
Yeah, 100%. What I loved about your answer, Susan, and just so that listeners know, like these are not practiced questions by any means. So, what I love about your answer, though, is how much it aligns with what I have seen in working with you over the past year or so, in terms of when you have high moments and when you're like, this was a really good month or good day, or here's what was good about it. Oftentimes, that's it. That's the highlight for you. And so I love that you're getting to meld the things that you love and you're good at with really what lights you up. I think that's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. So, tell those who are listening who don't know your story, how you started. So, Susan, of course, is your name, but the business is Saddle Seeks Horse. So, tell us a little bit about Saddle Seeks Horse. How did you start that?
Well, I am a former middle school English and history teacher. And in 2010, I lost my heart horse that I had had for 16 years. And I had just bought a brand new saddle for a 23-year-old horse because, as we know, their backs change. And so, long story short, I was living in Southern California, a very expensive place to live and even more expensive to keep a horse. And so, I had this basically brand new saddle in my garage that I walked past every day when I came home from school. And it was kind of my tangible link to still being an equestrian. I was not able to get my next horse for a period of 4 years, and so there was, like, this identity piece where, am I still a horse girl? Because I wasn't really around them. So I started blogging, and part of it was because I had been working on a memoir, which, Horses Adored and Men Endured, and it's kind of a G-rated Bridget Jones' Diary, horse girl style, and, it just was more of a, like, I always wanted to write a book because I loved reading books, and I wanted to do this, and so I'm a good, person with homework, having been in the realm of education, so I went to a writers' conference, and they said, "You must have a website in order for anyone to take you seriously," and I was like, "I don't want a website, I'm a private person," and so I started this blog, kind of toiled over figuring out a name, but, Saddle Seeks Horse, it made it about this saddle that no longer had the horse, but it needed its next horse, and so my website/blog back in the day in 2013 was more of a personal journal of my, trying to find my next horse, thinking about how, horse shopping is a lot like dating, and so I, kinda grew an audience and a following, and I didn't really think of it much as a business because I had a full-time teaching job. Excuse me, and so that was kind of one of my struggles as the blog, expanded and grew. I had sponsored post opportunities and, I could do Amazon affiliate links. So it was just sort of this, like, small side gig with teaching, and I think, one of the things that you've really helped me with, and I don't know if I'm going into the next question, but
You're good.
is, uh, you know, uh, everything that my whole career has been education, and I'm not really thinking about bottom lines or, systems in terms of revenue and those types of ways to measure success. And so I feel like I've done a lot of study on, author businesses and writing and that sort of thing. And so I like have all these kind of business concepts in mind, but everything felt very scattered and haphazard. For an example, one of the things that you helped me with was, I knew I was supposed to have an email list because why would you not? And so for years, I didn't have one. And then I started collecting MailChimp addresses, and I had like a few hundred, and I had never sent out an email. And I was terrified to send out an email. So it's just like I'm learning everything through the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause
So,
there.
I'm sure so many people first will resonate with that because even that going back to the very beginning of where you started, I know from talking to other people who have come through coaching or I've just met through the podcast that so many of horse businesses start as a passion. They don't always, and typically they don't start as a business on purpose, right? It's a way to make money doing something you love in the horse world. Or for many people, it's like, I knew I wanted to work with horses, but it doesn't typically come in with this business mindset, oftentimes for entrepreneurs in the horse space. And so I think that people resonate with that. But of course, over time, if you want to continue doing it, and eventually you are not teaching now. And so eventually it became like, okay, this is a business. I want to treat it as such. And so I think that's an important piece for people to hear because I think they probably resonate with that. And that mindset shift at some point is required. And I think the people listening to this podcast have probably had that time where they've had that mindset shift, and that's why they're here to learn and grow. But it's something important to note. And so I would love for them to hear because I've talked about coaching and I've talked about my clients, but I haven't really until now actually said, hey, why don't I bring some of my clients onto the podcast? Let other people learn about their businesses because I think there's so much value in that too. There's so many really neat businesses that I get to work with that I want to share about, but then also for people to understand what that is like. So for you, and you leaned into it some, and so you can 100% say, Denise, I've already answered that question. But is there anything else that before we started working together, before you joined Take the Reins for one-on-one coaching, that felt hard or frustrating when it came to growing your business?
I think for me, I just wasn't sure what direction to go. And I remember vividly meeting you at Equine Fair, Massachusetts a couple years ago. And,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a very good ideas person. And, part of me was like, okay, I, have these books. There's not much margin on selling a book. So,
Mhm.
especially if you go to an event and you're paying for a hotel and the travel to get there. And yeah. So, I I touched on it a little in the past with my website, Saddle Seeks Horse. I had done some sponsored posts, so I wasn't sure, like, is that the avenue to go down? But my heart, it was really in the books and the story, especially my book, Margaret, Misty, and Me, which is telling the never before known backstory of my favorite author, Marguerite Henry. And so just kind of having this mess of ideas in my head, and I even have a paper here, like, you had me I'm
Oh,
good with,
love
like,
this.
the giant-sized Post-it notes, and I
Yeah.
was like, is kind of where did I start in 2013, and
Yeah.
what am I doing now, and what is my goal? And I really so, uh, probably 15 years ago, when I was a teacher, we had an author come to our school, and I was on the committee that had that. And
Mhm.
it was like either I can't remember if it was 3,000 or $5,000 for her to come to our school. So, of course, now that
Mhm.
I'm out of education, I'm like, I know how to talk to kids. Like, this is
Yeah.
my specialty, and I'm an author. So, like, I want a piece of that pie. So, just kind of thinking about how to transition myself into this role of professional speaker, and not just with schools. I've been doing a lot of talks at historical societies and doing programs at libraries, and I've even recently, done some, like, senior living homes.
Mhm.
So, just, yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but it was, like,
Yeah,
all
no,
this, like, crazy, like, ideas and so
yeah,
many of the things are good things, but then
right.
it's, like, figuring out what is truly in alignment with who I am that brings me joy, that is of service to others, and if, I think about it, like, when we had that author in years ago, we had designated funds for literacy education that you either use or lose. And I know, libraries constantly are trying to have programs, and same with historical societies. They want to have um, programs in that, and even, in the horse world, some of the larger kind of expos and things.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think that's a great summary because, again, I do think those listening are like, "Okay, I've felt that." Because entrepreneurs, while you may not always start out going, "Okay, I'm gonna have a business hat on," it is an idea hat, right? Entrepreneurs very often, are ones that are really good at coming up with ideas, and especially too, some of the people I work with are doing some of these online things too, online launches and programs, and so then what can happen is you move from one idea to the next idea to the next idea without having a real way to measure success and or having a real way to know how long do I put into this to expect to see a return, right? It's not always quick returns. The return on investment does take some time and relationship building and things like that. And so, yeah, I remember too when we met and you were like, I have this and I have this, but I'm just not sure. How is it, how is it it is a real business, but I don't know if I'm treating it like a real business, kind of mindset. And so now I definitely can see the way you think is different, but I'd love to hear from you. So, in our time, of course, for those listening, I'll share more about Take the Reins in a separate outro part. But it really is starting in the very beginning with what you said, that paper, and honing in on what's important to you, what's the true heart of your business, and what do we want to grow and focus on in this time together. And so knowing that, now looking back, what's different for you and how you think or how you show up or run your business?
So many things, Denise. Do you have an hour or two? So I was kind of brainstorming this. I think in addition to just having like the clarity is systems. So for example, I have written 6 books. I've never truly had like a true launch of a book. And sometimes when I've done it, it's like, "Oh, it's finally out there," and I don't say a lot about it up front because it's like, "What if this doesn't come together?" And I don't want people to be disappointed and that sort of thing. So you challenged me in a good way to throw a book launch, and even, like, an existing book I had. So last year was the 100th, Wild Chincoteague Pony Swim, and so you helped me kind of identify this very timely opportunity, and part of it involves showing up on Facebook, and so I hosted a live event with, 3 Chincoteague pony experts, and so it really was about, bringing, information and joy to the community of people who grew up reading Misty of Chincoteague and people who are enthusiasts of the wild ponies off the coast of Virginia. But then there was kind of the soft sell of, uh, you know, I'm Susan Friedland, the author of Marguerite, Misty, and Me. So kind of that long-term thing. And then follow and we had a blast doing the event, and we had, some giveaways, and just so kind of thinking through how to make that work. I'm pretty good off the cuff as a speaker, and I taught middle school online during the pandemic. So I'm a good at, doing things, but it was like having kind of the thoughtfulness throughout how, the pacing would work, and even, like, how to promote that event online. Because it's like, well, I can't just do one Facebook post, like, the week before and
Right.
expect hundreds of people to show up. So
Mhm.
that was really helpful, and then, following that, I mean, this is, like, such a simple thing, and I can't believe it didn't ever occur to me. You were like, "What if you hosted a book club?" Like, yeah, I'm an author and a reader. Like, so I hosted a Misty of Chincoteague book club leading up to the 100th swim last summer, and had so many people. It wasn't like I had thousands of people attending, and I think some of the sessions, maybe we had a dozen or a couple dozen, but it was, people who, truly shared that same passion, and, just kind of grown, like, my Facebook page has grown as a result, Instagram. The other thing I would say is, in addition to just kind of thinking more like a business person, is having a system in place. So, for example, this next summer or spring, I'm launching another book, and so why not, why reinvent the wheel? So I think about how to use what I did for this past year in that, kind of repurpose the goodness of that content. And then the other thing that was so simple that I wouldn't have thought of was bundles. Like, I buy things in bundles. It never occurred to me, and I think it's because sometimes you're just too close to the work you do.
Mhm.
So, I was headed to some major equine events, and you were like, "Well, what if you did a bundle?" And so I took my 3 Misty theme, this little novella, Misty's First Christmas, The Young Reader, Margaret, Misty, Me, put a ribbon around it, and, it's amazing to me. I just had an event. I was at Pony Club convention in January, and people wanna buy the bundle. And it's like, it's so much easier and it's cute, and so it's like, I would rather have them buy this for more money than just a single book.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. I would not have really come to that on my own, I don't think. Um, Also, you have created a number of spreadsheets that, like, I can use spreadsheets, but designing a spreadsheet that's useful for me, again, with a background in education, I'm not thinking in terms of what numbers and types of things, like, so I have a monthly spreadsheet that I fill in that has to do with social media followers, email list subscribers, and even kind of reflecting on how successful I feel that month. And so anyway, there's just so many things, and I don't feel like I've mastered this. I think this is ongoing. I created a binder that has like the notes from our various calls twice a month. And so it's kind of something to keep referring back to, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. So here's what I hear, Susan. I hear intention. And I saw it too, right? The intention behind what you're doing. And I know part of the struggle, and know some people will identify with this, is like one of the struggles when we talked about selling on social media, even and kind of building some of that natural sell into that was like, I just want to use social media to organically show up as myself. And we talked about, and so for those listening too, like a takeaway even for you from this conversation is just that intentionality behind if you're going to have a business, at some point you're going to have to sell. And it doesn't mean you sell all the time. And it doesn't mean everything that you post means that you're saying, hey, come get on my email list. Hey, come buy my books. Come book this clinic for the other things, whatever it might be for those that are listening. But it is that intentional mindset behind I'm gonna do things intentionally that I know are going to build the business because otherwise it is just for fun. Otherwise it is just a hobby, and you wanted it to be a business. And so being able to put some measurements in place that said, okay, these are the things that I'm measuring because this is what matters to me to get me closer to that end goal that I said I was working towards. It really changed. I could see it changed the intention and the mindset behind how you approach those things, even to the point of the launch. I mean, another book that you launched when we were together was Misty's First Christmas. And so even having that as a part of just changing your mindset around it and doing some things intentionally to launch that book. Yeah. And it's so cute and so pretty. And so, yeah, I saw the way that you showed up differently in that too. All right. So for those who are listening, and they're feeling stuck the way that you did, feeling just a bit like, which direction do I go? What would you tell them? And this is not, yeah, let me just say that. What would you tell them? And for those listening, this is not the time where I told Susan that she should tell them to join Take the Reins. I mean, any other thing that you want to share too that would be helpful. I always want that to be available.
Well, being stuck feels gross. So,
Mm, yeah.
like, just move forward and take a shot, and I think about it like invest in yourself. So one of this is interesting. Will never forget one of the earliest things you helped me with was cleaning up my email list and MailChimp, and right away, you freed up an
Hmm.
extra $30 because I didn't know that the unsubscribed emails that were in my account counted toward my overall total I was paying for.
Hmm.
And, it sounds like I feel a little sheepish that I didn't know that, but you don't know what you don't know. And so
Hmm.
for you to say, hey, you need to archive those and moving
Hmm.
forward, put it in your calendar to once a month go in and archive those contacts so you're not paying for them. So I think like in terms if people like hands down, people should work with you or with someone else. There's always someone who knows more than you do. And if you think about riding, like I, 40 years into riding, still have a trainer and I'm still learning things. And so we've never really arrived. And I'm sure that there's people that you work with, but it's nice to have someone who's further down the road, um, like you. And the other thing, yeah, I don't know. I just can't stress that enough to just get out of the stuckness because the moving forward, maybe you'll identify that, this really isn't what I wanted to do after all, but I gave it a shot. So there's
Mhm.
got to be some movement forward.
That is so good. That's really good advice. Just take the next right step, right? And then, yeah, give yourself permission, because there's no shame in not knowing what you don't know, but you don't know if you don't move forward, in that. So that's great
And if I
advice.
could say something else too.
Yes, please.
So, programs, we're all at different income levels or whatever, but, thinking about signing on to a coaching program, if someone is thinking like, "Oh, it's too expensive," or whatever, think about the money you spend on your horse or on your special needs dog or on, your friends for their birthdays or whatever. And, it's worth investing in yourself, I guess, is what I would, encourage people as
No,
someone who, has gone through the whole equine nutrition thing and gives, like, 7 separate things in a baggie to my horse every day, so it's like, it's my time now
yeah.
to have the attention and, it's worthwhile.
That's so good, Susan. I appreciate that. I mean, 100%, you're right. I invest in a coaching program, same, because there's somebody ahead of me who knows more than I do about building out coaching programs and those types of things, and so I wanna learn, and I agree completely, which is why I offer it, right? But it's good to hear. I think it's good for listeners to hear from somebody specifically who has been through it, why it was so valuable, and to give them permission, to step into it. And you're right. There have definitely been some people who step in and dip their toe in the water with like a clarity coaching call first and, realize, okay, this is what I need, or I need more of that. So there are definitely ways to take the next right step to get the support you need. But feeling like you have to do it all alone is one of the worst feelings, right? And especially for entrepreneurs. And so when you're too close to it, I love what you said. When you're so close to it, you can't see everything. Just nobody can, period. So that's so good. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing. I want everybody to go find you, follow you, look at your books, learn about Misty and Marguerite and all the things. So, and especially because if you have kiddos, you're going to want her new book because it is a picture book and it's going to be lovely. So tell them where they can find you and connect with you online.
Well, I'm proud to say that my newly zhuzhed up website is saddleseekshorse.com. And I would like to mention if you or someone you know is maybe a homeschool parent or an educator or in charge of equine events and you need a speaker, I have a new page on my website, thanks to Denise for encouraging that. And it's saddleseekshorse.com, author hyphen school hyphen visits. And again, thanks to Denise, we talked about sales pages, and I hadn't really given much thought. My book was out there, but I have mistyandme.com will lead you to Margaret, Misty, and Me. And if you want to follow along my horsey adventure, my horsey authory adventure, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and it's Saddle Seeks Horse.
Awesome. So good. Thank you, Susan. I'm so cheering for you still. And thanks for sharing your experience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Susan. What I love about her journey is how keeping the heart of what she loves most gave her clarity on where to put her focus. Okay, her audience grew in the first place because of her ability to build personal connections through horses. I hope you heard that. I heard that as I worked with her, and it's continued to be the common thread in what she does with the Misty of Chincoteague and Marguerite Henry and all of that. Okay. But we needed a strategy behind that. So it was actually going to help her build her business. And that, you guys, is the heartbeat of Take the Reins. Not to just add more to what you're doing, but truly to simplify it, to give you focus so that it can be aligned with what you want to do more of and aligned with the business that you want to build. Now, now we're going to introduce you to my next Susan, Susan DiFelice. As I said, she's an equestrian artist and illustrator. And when she came into coaching, you guys, first of all, she's so talented with her art. So talented. Like, check out her Facebook page, check out her website and Instagram. She has a gifting. But like so many creative entrepreneurs, she also was trying to navigate how to position herself in a way that would generate the inquiries and sales for the kinds of projects she really wanted to do more of. And that was really the focus of what we worked on together. So listen in as Susan shares her experience inside of one-on-one coaching. Okay, Susan, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast today. I'm so grateful and I'm so excited for my audience to get to meet you.
Hi, Denise. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to dive in. For those of my listeners who have not met you or heard of you, I would love for them to hear a bit about your background. So tell us a bit about your journey, Susan, and how you got into horses, how your business came to be and how it's evolved, and maybe what you're most excited about right now.
Okay. Well, I grew up at a big boarding barn that had a lot of lesson kids. It was focused on hunter jumpers, had some low level eventing and dressage. And it had a barn full of school ponies and a bunch of little girls running around. It was a great way to grow up. I'm so fortunate to have that experience. There was a 4 H club there that I became a member of. And so I learned a lot about horsemanship through that. Made some great friends, did some showing in the hunter world, and then evolved into doing some eventing due to my parents purchasing a very hot thoroughbred for me that could not do the numbers. And through that, I fell in love with dressage. And then that evolved into leasing some upper level dressage horses. So one specifically was a Lipizan that had been trained at Grand Prix and knew some airs above ground. And I was able to show him through third level. And I learned so much from him. He was such a cool horse.
Awesome.
I did take a break from riding in college. So I did go get a fine arts degree and then focused on graphic design and website design. So I had a corporate career with those skills. And then when it came time to have kids, I then created All Pony, which was a horsemanship for kids platform. In the meantime, I had started riding again, taking hunter jumper lessons. And then that turned into leasing different hunter horses. I'm not brave enough to do the jumpers. um, and so, yeah, so my creative life and my equestrian life merged, and I've realized how incredibly fulfilling that is to have my passions combine.
Uh-huh.
And also, I'm really passionate about sharing horses with children, and and so I created a business called All Pony that did all of those things. It combined my love of horses with my illustrative and website graphic design skills, and then my passion for sharing horses with kids.
I love that. So that truly was just like the the motivation for that. Where did that come from? Like, were you actually the idea? Let me say that. Not that clearly the motivation was there because of the passion for kids and horses, but the actual idea of let me create for those listening. All Pony. It was like essentially a membership, right, where they paid a monthly amount and they had access to the resources and downloads. And so specifically it was maybe for lesson programs more likely. Like, is that kind of, am I giving a very good summary? Who did you create it for? And how did that idea spark in you?
I actually created it to teach my own kids about horsemanship.
Oh, I
They
didn't know
had
that.
very little interest in horses, and I was trying to make it colorful and fun and
Yeah.
interactive, and then it just grew from there. Other kids saw it, it just evolved. It was sort of like the great horsemanship lessons of Pony Club with this candy coating, and nothing like that existed at the time online.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I was able to take my web development skills and graphic design skills and sort of build this platform, which ultimately was purchased by the United States Pony Club, which was such an honor.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, what I want people to hear, like I haven't been to the site in years, to be honest with you, since we first worked together. Like since you've sold it, I don't know if it's changed, but I know from when you had it, like how beautiful it was. And what I think probably, I'm guessing that many of my listeners can resonate with is this idea that we've talked before about your passion and your skills combining with something that you love to do, right? So, I mean, clearly you have those design, illustration, skills, and then to get to combine it with what you love in the horse world is how the business came about. And so I know that so many of my listeners, some of them didn't actually set out to start a business, some of them did, but some of them are kind of like you. It wasn't like I have this great idea for this business, I want to see it grow, and you have all of these thoughts about that. It really kind of happened to you along the way, right?
That's right. It happened All Pony happened very organically. I had no idea it would become anything at all. It was just a passion project.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm building a new website called the Pony Island, and so I have a much more concrete vision and mission with that website, but I didn't even know with building All Pony that I was capable of building a business.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. So in that journey of your story to where you got today, so where you have the Pony Island, of course, we talked about that you and I had the pleasure of working with you kind of in that middle area, right? Where you're like, I'm trying to figure out if I'm not going to do all pony, I really love the equestrian design and illustration. And so that's still, right, a piece and part of what you are doing and spending some of your time in surface pattern design. I saw your most recent one on Instagram. So what I want people listening to hear too as a part of that journey is like many entrepreneurs are multifaceted and they come in like with a lot of ideas. And I talk, and you know this because we talked about it in coaching, like obviously if you put 10% of your effort in all 10 of your ideas, you're not going to get the same outcome as if you really honed in on your effort. But that doesn't have to squelch your creativity. You know, like there's still room and space for being that creative entrepreneur that you are. And also where you put your focus is what you're going to grow. And so I think that's a really good picture of that. So I would love, Susan, if you would share with us, because again, I know many of my listeners can see themselves in your story, and therefore I'm sure they can see themselves in some of the challenges as well. So, in this process of business building that you've been in through the years, what are some of the challenges that maybe have surprised you? Or I used to call this roadblocks actually, but I've changed it to challenges because a challenge can be an opportunity as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean something that was really hard and made you want to quit, even though that can be it for some people, but it also just may be some of the opportunities for learning and growth that you've had along the way.
Well, I have to say you were a huge help in helping me develop my own marketing strategies for my current business. I think probably the biggest challenge has been believing in myself, having the confidence to put myself out there. I'm naturally introverted, I'm pretty shy by nature, and marketing feels like I'm exposing myself to the world and to criticism.
Hmm.
And I found that people in general have been very supportive and kind and want to help me along my journey. And putting myself out there doesn't have to be scary all the time, even though it does still sort of terrify me at times. Like this podcast itself is kind of scary to do. Um, but also not knowing how to market, like the strategies behind it. In art school, they didn't teach me how to market myself or my business. So,
Mm-hmm.
doing your program gave me the tools that I needed, and and knowing how important it is to narrow down your focus on one thing that you're trying to sell. But sell is sort of a hard word with marketing. I don't love the word sell. It's more of sharing authentically and connecting with the audience you want to reach. I think that's probably the most important takeaway. from our training sessions together that, came about.
But I'm so grateful to hear that because that is key. And so much a part of what people struggle with marketing is that selling is sleazy and I don't want to do it. Or what you also said is so true, right? Putting yourself out there, it's a very vulnerable thing. Um, Especially, I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm working on a group program, and so going to be marketing that. And I said, when you're creating something new and you put so much your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then you start to share about it, it is vulnerable. And it's the same for people who are creating product. They're putting their blood, sweat, and tears in this product, and then they're putting it out there into the world, and it is very vulnerable. And so learning to separate ourselves from the outcome and our identity from the outcome is a big part of that process too. So I think I've seen that in you too, and learning that, and you have to be willing to lean into that
Yeah.
in order to step into marketing, in order to do email marketing or social media or whatever it is and put yourself out there. So
Yep.
I'd love to know for you, and you leaned into it a little bit, but when we talk about marketing, because of course this is the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast, so I want people to walk away with some of those ideas. So for you, as when you look at either All Pony or the Equestrian Illustrator and Designs or the Pony Island, the different facets of your business, the process of learning marketing. Tell me a little bit about why was that important to you in that process?
Well, I knew it was a weakness, and I knew of mine, and I knew how important it is to to sort of elevate your business to a new level, reach more people, allow it to grow and become what it is. I found that just having a clear mission, a clear vision, a singular vision almost, and then creating branding around that, like creating like your whole brand story, the colors, the look and feel, just and then having the steps in place, like the email marketing, the social media marketing, the collaborations, the newsletter is important. So that was definitely a challenge area. The email newsletter, you pushed me to do that and it made me so uncomfortable. And now I have found a really great plugin. It's in WordPress. I love using WordPress. It's called Newsletter, and it's not as complicated as Mailchimp or Klaviyo or some of those other services. It's simple and it works just fine for what I need. I'm able to offer a lead magnet with it, which is something you taught me. Um, and my list is growing, and I know that the people that are there want to be there.
I love that. And again, because email marketing, you are not the only one who struggles with that or puts off sending that very first email newsletter. Like that is something we do in Take the Reins is creating it and then like actually creating a system and then actually implementing it. Because so many people will create the lead magnet, start the email list, but never send an email newsletter. And obviously you're not going to get the fruit from that. And there are many reasons behind that. There are some mindset blocks that happen there. And like you said, having that person to push you and to do the uncomfortable thing is how you're going to get the fruit from that. So I love that you have done that. I love that you found a solution for the Pony Island. I'm noting that. I'll make sure a link to that for those listening who are on WordPress who want to check it out. Because certainly tech can be one of those roadblocks for people when it comes to email marketing. If we can make it simple, the simple, the better. So I love that you didn't let that keep you from making progress and doing what you wanted to do with it now. So obviously you're on the journey, just like many of my listeners, but you've also learned some things along your journey so far. So I would love for you to share what are some of those lessons learned that you've experienced over the past few years in building your equine businesses.
I think consistency is so important. So I've set sort of a I put on my calendar to send out my newsletter every other Monday. And so I work on it usually in between. I'll throw it some info in there as I create printables or new courses or any new products. And I'll just throw it in very rough in the newsletter building template. I have a template that with my branding, but then within the tool itself in WordPress, I'll just sort of throw it in there. And I actually use Chat GPT a lot, which has made my life a lot easier to, sort of streamline my messaging, make it flow better. I'm not a
Mhm.
natural writer. And so that's been really helpful. And then beautiful visuals, I find is, that's really what people I think are looking for when they come to my websites. They want to see and interact with something that feels tangible and fun and kooky and, informative. And so I
Mhm.
always sort of try to stick to those keep that in mind, stick to those themes. I also consistently have I have a marketing plan on Meta Business Suite. So I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page for the Pony Island, and I plan them out a month at a time. I have 3 different sort of paths that I go there. I have a large book library on the Pony Island. So once a week I'll create a post about a book that I think people would enjoy. Then there's, a course that I think kids would enjoy or that I'm in the, act of promoting. And then the printables. So printables have been great passive income for me. I've written and illustrated a book, and I found that to be less profitable and more work than just the printables that trainers and parents can print out at home, and their kids can do the activities and learn from them.
Mhm.
Anyway, so for each of those 3 paths, I plan them out a month ahead of time, and then I put on my calendar when that month is up, give myself an extra day or 2 to put together the next month's, posts in each category, and they don't happen on the same day, which makes it a little less overwhelming.
What doesn't happen on the same day? What do you mean?
So for the 3 different, ideas that I'm pushing right now, the
Yeah.
book, the courses, and the printables,
Mhm.
I have a month planned out for each of those 3 categories,
Okay.
but I don't do all of them in one day. I pick a day and do just the books for the month, and then a couple days
Oh,
later, I'll
okay.
do all of the printables that I wanna do for the month, and then, so it's not hitting all in one day, and that makes it feel overwhelming to me, so sort of stretch it out.
I love that. I love that for people that are listening because, again, content is a big part of the marketing overwhelm for a lot of people. So I love that you've given yourself the freedom. There's a structure to it and some freedom to it, right? Like, not that you have to get everything done all at one time in one day. I think that's really smart on your part. I love that.
Thanks.
Sorry, I jumped in there. Was there anything else? Any other lessons learned? Sorry, but I'm taking notes as you're talking, Susan. So I see that your consistency has been a game changer for you. I love that. Having content buckets or 3 paths for your social media and scheduling time to do it. Again, just ways that you can intentionally remove some of that overwhelm. Are there any other lessons learned? I think that the newsletter, I'm pulling that out as a lesson learned that you shared a minute ago because I know when we talked with All Pony that wasn't a consistent part of what you were doing, but you had a huge list. And so now you have that from the beginning to build that relationship and build that trust. And, that way, when you do have something else to offer, you do have something else to sell, or you're sending out a printed of the week or whatever it is, they're already warmed up to hearing from you. So that's really, I feel like that's taking a lesson you learned from even earlier in your journey and applying it now.
Yes, I agree. I think consistency is so important. Having a really polished brand, with, your colors and your fonts and your imagery, I think is so important. For anyone constantly learning, challenging yourself to learn, watch YouTube videos, ask ChatGPT, Google it, ask friends, or, just and also joining organizations in your field, whether it's like a vet field or for me, it's American Horse Publications or maybe a riding trainer's certification program, whatever it may be, connecting with those people and supporting them and letting them support you, I think is so important when growing a business.
That's so good. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Before we say goodbye, is there any other parting advice you would like to offer? I know that you've given plenty. So if you say, nope, Denise, I've covered it, that's absolutely okay. But I always love to end with just the open ended question. If there's something that you wanted to share with your fellow equestrian entrepreneurs.
Well, I have a few there.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, first, I would say build something you really believe in, that you're passionate about, that keeps you going even when things are really hard or or nothing's happening for your business and you feel like you're not going anywhere, just choose something that combine elements in a way that, it ignites you. It encourages you to keep going. Um, I would say also make your business model sustainable, like financially and emotionally and time-wise. Like Denise and I were talking before this interview started about our kids and, having a kid homesick, one day. We've created businesses for ourselves that allow us the freedom and independence to be able to, be there for our children and our families when they need us. Again, never stop learning. There's things are changing so fast with technology, and the horse world is always evolving. I would say just keep learning. And then I would also say relationships, fostering relationships and creating collaborations is so important. You'd be so surprised how people can when you lift up other people, it also lifts up your brand, and it just feels good, honestly, to help other people. Um, and I would say just put yourself out there. It's scary, for a lot of people, but if you just put yourself out there, you may be pleasantly surprised at what happens.
Such good parting advice, Susan. I appreciate that. I know that those listening, like I said, are going, I can see myself in that story. And if Susan can do it, I can do it too. So that's what I want people to hear is like, if Susan can do that and make those courageous choices, market even when it feels uncomfortable, send the email even when it feels uncomfortable, create that content, all of those things, right? And like you said, it's that consistency, that showing up consistently is truly what will build it to be sustainable. It's not the one shot. It's not the one shot of success. Really, it's that consistency. And we know that in the horse world, right? That when we hear oftentimes the narrative when it comes to business building and especially building a business with an online component, that's often not what we hear. That's not the narrative, but the narrative isn't always matched up to reality. So I think it's great to bring that around. Thank you so much, Susan. For those that want to go find you, of course, I'll have links to your website and whatnot on the show notes. But for those listening, I want to go find you on Instagram, Facebook, and online. Where can they find you?
Sure. My website is theponyisland.com with the THE at the beginning. On Facebook, it's the Pony Island Shop. And on Instagram, it's the Pony Island.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And are you still doing, because for those listening, they may go, oh, but she does design stuff. And I'm wondering if she does that. So I'm going to go ahead and let you answer that question now.
Yeah. Yeah. So my illustration and freelance design website is my name. It's susandefelice.com. So it's DIFELICE is my last name. susandefelice.com.
Okay. Perfect. So you're like, yes. So the answer to that was yes, then. Yeah. So if people are interested in the design aspect of things and seeing what you do, circus pattern design, logo design, and things like that, it's really beautiful work, you guys. So I recommend you go check that out too. So I'll link to both of those in the show notes. But thank you, Susan, for taking time to share your story and your insights and your experience. I appreciate you sharing candidly about your experience and Take the Reins and how you're taking that and applying that framework to every piece and part of your business as it evolves. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Denise. Great to be with you.
You too. Okay, friends, as you listen to both of my Susans today, I hope that you notice something. Okay, their businesses, as I said earlier, are very different. Their goals and their strengths are different. They both love horses, they both serve the equine industry, and they're both entrepreneurs. And the through line of what happened with their experience and Take the Reins is that clarity piece and that confidence piece that they know what to do and how it aligns with what they want to do in their business. And that is what one-on-one coaching with me is truly about. Take the Reins is a 6-month one-on-one coaching experience that will give you the clarity, confidence, and plan around your marketing that actually fits your equine business. Not what someone else says you should be doing or what success should be. Okay. It's not about just adding to your list and doing more or chasing trends or chasing followers. It's really about making decisions intentionally and strategically so that you're not second guessing every step. So if that sounds like a fit for you, if you truly have been feeling stuck when it comes to your marketing, knowing that you have a dream in your heart, that you have a vision, that you're building something. Take the Reins is not necessarily for people who are just starting out, okay? It is for those of you who have been in it for a bit, but still feel like marketing is a piece that you haven't wrapped your brain around, or you haven't really put a system and strategy in place for it. And now is the time to do that. So if that is you, then I would invite you to check out Take the Reins. You can apply and learn more at stormlily.com/reins. Okay. That is your first step. Go there, see more about the program, see if it's a right fit for you, and apply. You can apply, and what that will do is just let me know where you're at in your business, what's important to you right now, and then we'll be able to get on a call together to really talk about if one-on-one coaching is a good fit. I recognize it's an investment in yourself, it's an investment in your business, and I want to make sure that you feel confident that it's the right fit for you. Okay, so that's why there's an application process for this. Whereas with the Clarity coaching call, I told you that's something you can go do anytime. But this is a 6-month commitment that I want to make sure is a great fit for you and that you're ready to step in and that I can support you in the best way. So that's why the application process is set up. Okay. So if you go to stormlily.com/reins, you can apply now and we'll get started as soon as possible and get on that Zoom call as soon as possible. But let me just tell you this. If you listen to this far and you're like, Denise, this is just not the season for one-on-one coaching for me right now. I just wanted to learn more about what you're doing, what that's like, but it's not really my season. Please know I get that, and I'm so glad you are here. Continue to listen to this podcast because you know that I'm 100% here to help serve you and equip you through the podcast, regardless of the coaching that you can step into or not. That's why this podcast is here. Okay. I truly get messages on the regular from listeners, from equestrian entrepreneurs who have grown their business simply by listening to this podcast and taking action. Do I believe that personalized support can be a game changer? 100%. But I also believe that you know your season better than anybody else. So this podcast is here as a resource for you. Okay. And now for some of you, you're saying, Denise, coaching sounds interesting, but actually I want to experience it in community. And that's why I have the Business Barn Collective. Okay. There's a place for that as well. Now it is curated small group coaching and currently it's closed doors, but I will be opening the doors again for new cohorts to begin and new groups to begin in April. Okay. So if that sounds appealing to you, I would love for you to get on the wait list for that. I'll definitely be sharing more details here on the podcast as we get closer, but just know I am here for both. I love to provide that personalized one-on-one strategy and support, and I love to get to coach you in community if that's where you're at. I'm so glad you're here. Please share this with a friend. If you've had this conversation with someone else about what in the world does one-on-one coaching with a business coach actually look like, what does it look like with Denise Alvarez, then please feel free to share this episode. Check out Take the Reins and stay tuned because I've got more new friends and podcast guests to be introducing you to over the next few weeks. What am I saying? Over the next few weeks, the rest of the year. You guys, I have so many fun guests lined up for you that I know you're going to love meeting and learning from throughout the year. So stay tuned, stay subscribed, and I'll catch you next week. Have an amazing day.